Nightwing 78, Tom Taylor writing with Bruno Redondo on the art. Start of new run, new start on Nightwing. It's been a while since we've talked about Nightwing's own book, for fairly obvious reasons. This starts off the new story. There are references to what's came before. There's references to his time as Rick, briefly, and more of a joke at the expense of it. But but it is there. And we have an emotional reaction, something that was missing because Dick wasn't Dick when Alfred died. And this issue maybe even gave him my favourite payoff to Alfred's death that we've had.
Let's be honest. Hands up. Who shed a tear in this issue?
Yes. There may have been some watery eyes.
This feels like the book that Tom Taylor's always been meant to read. Right?
Meant to read?
He's meant to read.
Where did he steal it from?
Sure. he had to read it before he sent it. But it's been a very long time since someone has come in and written the exact Dick Grayson that I want. And Taylor just comes in. But it's not even that, because even before then, like, I enjoyed the Higgins stuff, but that is not my platonic ideal of Dick Grayson, right? Like, this hits all of them. It's, not just him as, Dick Grayson of the Flying Graysons, or, the heir to Bruce Wayne, or, Barbara's boyfriend type character. Like, and I know this is going to sound funny because I know Tom Taylor was a juggler, but he juggles all of those aspects of Dick Grayson in this issue, like, perfectly.
That wasn't that funny, but
that was terrible.
No, but like I didn't mean to, because I do know, I've seen on Twitter, like he was like a proper like busker. Yeah. So like he does though, like it's perfectly balanced Nightwing, which again, it's just nice to have Nightwing again, but the fact like it hits just this seam.
No, I get what you can. You have Dick Grayson being the one who cares and standing up for things. You've got Dick Grayson doing action stuff. You've got his relationship with Babs, which for a lot of people is a big part of it.
Right.
And then you've got just all of that paced excellently and wrapped up.
You didn't even finish listing things off. You've also got his legacy as a Bat character. Because I think that's separate from his relationship with Babs. His relationship with Alfred, and how important he is to the Bat family as a staple in that, as a whole separate thing, and that is represented here, perhaps even the most. But everything's there.
And I think obviously this is a character that was introduced a while ago in this particular set of runs, but. You're going back to the Zuko stuff, which again is okay. We're bringing in that's the Flying Grayson history stuff that's being dealt with as well.
And Blockbuster is a villain in Bloodhaven is original Nightwing run stuff. That's like go back to the start of Nightwing's career as Nightwing. So everything's there. We start with this flashback, which is actually how Dick and Babs first met before she knew he was seemingly before she became Batgirl, because he's Robin already.
I mean, and it's. They're very young kids. Like
He's Robin. That's referenced with Alfred at the end of the flashback sequence. But he steps in and stops this bully from picking on a kid. The Babs is also kind of trying to step in and stop. And the kids, beg for his britches, but of course Dick gives him what for. The guy thinks that because his father is rich and owns the police, that he'll get no fault. And that's the thing, it never mentions that it's Barbara, but you're kind of assuming it is until the tease of like, oh, I own the police, like they can't touch me, and she's like, let's see which one he listens to.
How many other young redheads are there going to be in Dick's life at this point?
But at the same point,
I'm not saying it's like
shows restraint.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a big twist. I'm saying that it's intentionally not. It doesn't tell you intentionally until it reveals who her father is.
It's a nice payoff, right? Like, because we can just do the quick math, like, oh, redheaded girl, I'm sure that's Barbara. But the smirk on her face when he says, "Oh, my father owns the cops," and she's like, "Oh, does he? Huh? I wonder who my dad is." And it just, and at the time he's just a detective, right? He's not commissioner, and it's just. It felt nice. This book was like a warm hug, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with that. Obviously, it then goes into it ends with the Alfred specifically, like him and Alfred, and Alfred being proud of him for standing up to someone without, without the mask, without being Robin.
And Dick's kind of afraid that he's gonna get into trouble because Bruce is like, you can't be Robin outside,
Gotta not draw attention to yourself.
You gotta lay low. And then I like that Alfred's like, well, no, you're being Dick Grayson. You weren't being Robin. This is who you are. And yeah, just.
And also, Dick insisting that he help with the dishes, which Alfred's like, this is my job.
That's another.
Just shows you. Which leads to, of course, the title page, which is this glorious city shot with Dick just sort of flying in front of the sun as it's setting.
Yeah, and we haven't mentioned them yet, but
colors.
Adriana Lucas's colors. Oh my god! Obviously, we spoke a lot on Suicide Squad when we had fill-in artists, how Lucas's colors were essential in keeping that consistent style between them. And again, right here, this has a distinct color palette already. Wonderful stuff.
Also, it just occurred to me, for the audio listeners, all of us put up our hands when Connor asked who shed a tear.
Honestly, I thought the awkward pause was just enough to give it away. Anyway.
It occurred to me that, wait a minute, the audio listeners, which is actually more of our audience, wouldn't have actually seen that.
Good call, Pete. Good call.
Keep them in the loop, is what I'm saying.
That city shot, just
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, man. And then just even the buildings, the way that the windows bounce the color off.
I love how it feels like it shows how Nightwing is the opposite of Bruce in so many ways, because when you think of character leaping through the night, or leaping through the sky, what comes to mind first for a lot of people will be the Dark Knight Returns image, right, with the lightning bolt. Whereas this here, it's like no, there's still sunlight. There's it's so different.
Even the pose though is uniquely Dick Grayson.
It's acrobat, yeah.
So he's got the full layout, and he has his batons and whatnot. But yeah, it's great. And then we get his the full introduction to now, and these hooligans are hurting a poor dog. And
that's when you know a city's like, if they want to tell us, this city's real shit right now.
Yeah.
It's just the local high schoolers are kicking the shit out of a dog, like literally kicking a dog for no reason.
A 3-legged dog on top of it, like Champion,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he steps up and the kid pulls a gun out, and I was like, "Damn, Taylor, you're getting dark already. Like, how many pages in?" Which of course we never have to worry because Nightwing handles it. But just like the action on that page too was just the way that Redondo draws him going through the air.
I think even before the action, like Dick's introduction into the scene as he's walking through the fog or the smoke, and it's just his feet walking towards the dog, as the dog is like lying there in pain because she's just been kicked. The
I
build
love
up
when it cuts then to the next bit where it's a full page almost of Dick, and it's the full body shot. The dog's looking up at him just like we are as well.
The build up to the entrance is just very good. To finish my sentence before Connor so rudely interrupted me, I think that sets up, obviously, it's just a simple good deed just to set up Dick and who he is, of course, in present day. We jump to Blockbuster, who's clearly in control of the city. The idea is that as Dick was away as Rick.
Just before we move on to the Blockbuster bit, there's a bit as he leaves where he gets out his stick and shoots out the grappling out of it, and the art shifts entirely. Did anyone else feel like that was like the fraction out?
100%.
It looked straight out of that book for like just those 4 panels. And I was like, oh my god, we're in a completely different book all of a sudden.
Well, no, and I can't imagine that it's not intentional, because I do feel like a lot of that heart of that book, not that Taylor's going to copy, because I feel like he doesn't need to, but I feel like that whole vibe.
More just showing it's an influence.
Yeah, just like, hey, this is, there's similar types, although I would say that Dick Grayson's less of a mess than Clint,
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, but no, just that whole, just the way that he's standing, I was getting big aha vibes.
Yeah, just for those little panels, it just felt like, oh no, I'm just thrown back to that book. I don't know. I always go back and forth as well.
Yeah. So, anyways, but no, and then Blockbuster. Like, I forgot about Blockbuster because it's been a while, and I turned the page, and with the coloring, I thought this was brick, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice, from the Green Arrow side of things. And then when they call it Blockbuster, I was like, oh yeah, dummy.
That makes way more sense.
Why would it be brick? Just to be different, but he's properly menacing, and not to compare it to other things though. Like, I was getting Kingpin vibes.
I was gonna say that myself.
Here,
yeah.
Just he's stoic.
As well, because we're doing he's running the mayor. Not as publicly as Fisk is right now, of course, but the idea, he's basically the mayor.
Is Fisk still the mayor over there in Daredevil? Because I haven't read it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. But it's typical Bloodhaven, right? What, Pete?
I was gonna say, well, the idea is that Wells Dick was away and Rick was kind of around, and no one was protecting Bloodhaven. That a lot of the regular criminals in Bloodhaven have risen up and kind of taken control, and this is one of the effects of that. Is that Blockbuster does own the mayor, and because the mayor is refusing to do what he's told here, we get this brutal head-crushing scene where we just get the sound effect. He picks him up by the head, and we get the red, and then just blood on his hands. And the red really sticks out because the color palette is, a lot of blues obviously, and there's a lot of yellows in the background for the night lights and whatnot. But the red here shows up in like 3 key areas in this scene. You have the books in the briefcase with the spreadsheets, which I think is telling it from a plot perspective. Like what he's doing is very important. But then you have the crick sound effect, and then the blood in the hands is the only red in the scene. So it kind of like really bullet points all of these really specific elements of the scene.
I think it's actually really notable that in the next scene, like as soon as it transitions to the next page, there's a big red glow, emphasizing everything, and it makes this real sense of continuity of the worst elements of what we've just seen are actually permeating Bloodhaven as a whole.
Yeah, or also even just the idea that because it's literally blood on Blockbuster's hands, and then we turn the page and the entire building is red. So it's the idea that Blockbuster's grip is around the whole city. You've got him kind of, essentially controlling the whole thing. So
he shakes the bloody hand with the new mayor.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's Zuko, of course, Mayor Zuko.
Right.
Melinda Zuko.
We should also mention as well, he's got the police commissioner there, kind of in his pocket, who's kind of like chauffeuring the mayors around, essentially.
Yeah, I always like when they make a point of calling out differences between Gotham and Bloodhaven. Now, Gordon's not actually the commissioner right now, but typically speaking, he is. So I think setting up that we have this corrupted commissioner, not that it's original. Obviously, I mean, Gotham did have corrupt commissioners in the past. It's just
the idea of this is how different it is. Nightwing doesn't even have the police commissioner that he can rely on. That Bruce usually does.
And of course, he comes home. He owns the building, which is the editor's note, just kind of like, hey, he had money, blah blah. It's gone now, but he is on the building. His apartment's in there, and he comes in. Barbara's there. Because he's aware that someone's snuck into his apartment. He's smart enough to notice that. But Barbara, of course, is also very capable. So when he tries to sort of jump in with a surprise, she just flips him over. So they have this scene. She's delighted by the puppy. She's like, "Yeah, you're not giving this puppy away. This is your dog now. Just accept it." But the point of this is to essentially, give him what Alfred left him. And he's not only has he left him a lot of money, because Alfred was worth a lot, but he's left him this letter, and this 2-page layout where he's on the fire escape reading the letter. And I think there's some, obviously the wording itself, Alfred calling him his son, saying that he's proud of him, saying that he's the best. We always say like Dick and Wally are the heart and the soul, and this is Alfred saying to Dick that you are the heart of
I love that, because obviously the page, it's a double page layout, but it is split into 2 because you have the side panels as well. Right. The bottom of the first half is just I believe in Dick Grayson, and that feels like such a perfectly punctuated point before you move on to the second half of the page, even though it's 1 page and it's 1 letter.
Well, I should point out, I think the word half's a bit of a a bit of a misnomer because
it's more 2/3.
More of a third.
It's 2/3 and a third, and I think that I think that's it's good on the page because I think one of the things the art does here, apart from just the beautiful colors and this shot of the city, but it makes when it goes into the close-ups and that sort of column of panels on the right hand side. One of my favorite bits in the art is just it's fairly subtle, but it's Barbara holding his hand. Like your hand goes on his shoulder and he sort of like grasps it as he's reading this, as it's getting more intense. And I think if you do care about Dick Grayson, you care about his relationship with Alfred, and you care about these things, I think it's this almost this double punch to the gut of the actual meaning of the page and the actual meaning of what Alfred's saying to him, but also the meta level of we have Dick back finally. But then
we know we should have done this moment a long time ago.
And Dick's been back for a while, a little bit. Don't get me wrong. It's just not like he just popped up. He's been in Batman and stuff. But this being the relaunch of his new run with the new writer, all these things, this feels like no, Dick Grayson is important. We are acknowledging that he is important, and that even when he was Dick Grayson before, his book wasn't necessarily treated like it was that much of a big deal. This, and compare it to Hawkeye, compare it to Daredevil, characters who have had really good runs over at Marvel. I do think there's, whether or not DC are consciously doing this or it's just Tom Taylor doing it, I don't know. But going out of his way to make this feel like it is the start of a special Dick Grayson story, where we are hopefully at the end of this, hopefully a very long run, going to look back and say, no, this is the start of something that made Dick feel special and important again.
A run for the ages.
And it's the whole I believe in Dick Grayson. I don't think it's just a Tom Taylor message, right? Like, I feel like that's DC now, right?
Almost,
like,
yeah.
Is this
a statement of intent?
Is this a promise after Didio? Like we believe.
That's almost how I took it. Not to beat a dead horse on that, but like, it felt so good to go in and buy a Nightwing book again. Yeah. And then for it to be as good as this is too. Like, I had zero doubts that this team was going to deliver, right? But they didn't have to deliver this hard out the gate.
I think the sentiment of this issue is effectively being Dick Grayson matters. Like, obviously I was expecting this issue to be good, but for it to be that mission statement of no, Dick Grayson's important, he means a lot to us, and we're going to treat him that way. It's important.
Some people at DC have missed reading Dick Grayson as much as we have.
Yeah. Definitely.
Obviously, there's a little, there's an epilogue scene that sets up some villain stuff, but like this is the end of the Dick part of the story.
This
it has to be.
Is the page of the issue, right?
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is. And everything about it. Not only the effect of him reading this, the fact that Barbara's there for him in this moment, because that's one of the other things is that a lot of us who care about the Dick and Barbara relationship to some extent. Is that this isn't, the romantic page of them in each other's arms. It doesn't need to be, and I don't even necessarily need that to happen. It's more just that this is how close they are. She's the one who has to be there for him as he's reading this. That's important. And them sharing this moment, and it's not that it's a romantic moment. It's just that she's someone he can lean on.
Anything but, really.
Yeah. Right, but it is a very intimate moment.
Yeah.
Right?
And do you know what, because I think you were really right to pull me up my phrasing of the page. I said half, and it really is thirds, and that is great. But I think you're right, Paul, because I think that is actually important to the layout, in that this, that big 2/3, you've got a wider shot. You see the scale of the city, and Dick feels relatively small on the page, and then when you cut in, it's so much more intimate, and you get the emotional moments in this intimacy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point. Yeah, is that it's this almost landscape or wide shot of the city with him, and I think even just where he is in the frame, in that wider side of it, that
just
wider 2/3.
Side.
It's like he's right at the edge. It's not traditional rule of thirds where he's more prominently placed. Like the ladder that Barbara's sitting on, or the steps and the fire escape she's sitting on, like that's literally riding the edge of the page, which typically in terms of framing is a no-no. But clearly it's making a statement here of they feel off to the side like they are small parts of the world, that the city is more important. But then you get to those close-ups on the other side, and it's like, no, they are front and center. He's front and center specifically. But it does feel much more intimate. So
it is just like this whole letter. It's like I say, this is where I'm pretty sure we're all tearing up a little bit. And that final panel of it is, Dick tearing up as well, because it is, I'm so proud to call you my son.
It's weird to sort of put a timeline on it, but I'm pretty sure if they weren't teary already, I believe in Dick Grayson is what made me teary. And then because those panels on the right hand side, I remember I think I had to struggle to actually see what it said because I was kind of like fighting through some watery eyes. Because it's not like, because obviously it's not a completely handwritten like lettering style, but it's a bit more cursive than traditional, right? Because it's meant to be a letter. So there was a bit of a struggle sort of reading it. But
well, just to go back, just like I loved the conversation before when Babs is like, he was really rich, by the way, and he's like, why would a billionaire make me sandwiches and do my washing? She's like, the same reason a billionaire would fight crime in Gotham, because it's what he wanted to do. And that is kind of Alfred, right?
And it just the Alfred that I love, right? It's that one that is the father figure to all of these lost kids, and of course, he got Wayne money. But he's not gonna let that change him.
And I like that it points out that he got way money, but he was investing it in ethical things. And by the end, he couldn't think of any more moral or ethical way of what to do with his money than to give it to Dick, because he knows Dick will do the right thing with it, not just wage a war on crime, essentially.
Right, and again, it's the difference of Bruce and Dick, and it's because I always look at Dick Grayson as he's seen Bruce at his absolute worst.
Is this
right?
is this the first time in comics history where Dick Grayson has a higher net worth than Bruce Wayne?
100%. It's got to be, unless during the Bruce Wayne fugitive stuff, right, when he was on the run, way back.
Technically, yeah.
I mean, I would say it's the first time it matters. It's the first time it's seemingly the status quo for a while. I would say this is something. It made me recontextualize Alfred with the whole Batman in general, because we talk about how Bruce is often the father figure to a lot of them as well, right? I feel like that's probably not really actually true with Dick. I think with Dick, it's more of an older brother, and then Alfred's the father, and then Alfred's almost like the grandfather to a lot of the the younger ones, like Tim onwards, especially. And I'm including like Steph and Cal, everyone kind of in that, not just the Robins, but from that kind of period onwards, there is a distinct separation between Dick feels closer to Bruce than he does to Tim, for example, and this here, it feels like Alfred giving it to the younger son, because it's like I Bruce had his chance. I trust you more to do the right thing with this money.
Yeah, the final page is just going back to the Zuko stuff. Seemingly, she actually does have a plan, because she's looking at this flying Grayson's poster, because her I don't know, henchwoman, I suppose, says, what about Dick Grayson? Because that's the thing, like her reaction earlier on when the previous mayor got his neck crushed or snapped or whatever the exact method of death was, by the bare hands of Blockbuster, she wasn't exactly that scared or shocked by it. She kind of took it fairly calmly, as one would. But she says, what are you doing about Dick Grayson? She's like, I'm not ready for him yet. And she's like, you don't wait too long, you may not get another chance. And she's like, I know, soon. And she's like staring at Dick on the poster.
I think it's double that, she's not ready for Dick yet, but yeah, Blockbuster, whatever.
Yeah.
Like the way she does here, Blockbuster does what Blockbuster does.
Is that, do you think that's a tease that she's actually trying to, like, take over the city for a good reason? She's trying to, like, actually ultimately take down Blockbuster from another angle?
When you see her at this page, she's literally washing the blood off her hands.
Yes.
So
hard not to think of this going, almost like a Lady Macbeth sort of way, in a lot of ways, with her being pulling the strings of Blockbuster.
And I don't know if I'm just reading too much into this, and I'm waiting for the I'm waiting for the twist, but I think she's a good guy. I really do. I feel like she is. Now, granted, she's done some bad things to put herself into that spot, you know. But
you're thinking more shades of grey anti-hero, where she's trying to fix the city from another angle.
Because she cares about Bloodhaven, right? Yeah. And that she doesn't want it to be this place that's ran by somebody like Blockbuster, when sure, she'll look the other way and she'll keep the corruption going, but it's not going to be the complete cesspool.
She might actually, she might turn out to be proper evil and is just pulling the strings, like Connor said, but I could see her almost in a weird way becoming his Gordon, and that his contact isn't the commissioner of police; it's actually her who's like high up in the criminal.
No, I can see it going that way as well.
Yeah.
There's kind of not enough to really be sure on either way yet.
Yeah.
I can see
Yeah.
both ways working out right now.
Yes. But needless to say, fantastic first issue.
Mhm.
So I guess we're going to rate it. Connor or Matt rather, what are you going to rate it?
I'm giving it a 10. Firing it at the gate.
Connor?
Yeah. I think part of it is the fact that I've missed having a Nightwing book, and then that this being so good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also giving it the 10.
I'm going to be the dick here. Apparently, I'm going to give it a 9.5. It's not getting the sweeping 10s, and the only reason being, right? This obviously was a moving issue. There's so much of this that I loved, and I think it's exceptional. The only reason why it's not getting the full 10, in reality, is just because, what it's setting up with the Zuko Mayor stuff is perfectly solid and fine, but it wasn't necessarily riveting in its own right yet. So I'm not going to give it a 10.
When there's an issue that literally makes me cry, there's a good chance it's getting a 10 if it's not messing up in other departments.
Yeah. So, but I guess all I'm saying is it wasn't like, not every page felt special, which is typically what most of the 10s that I give out. Like I just have that feeling the entire time.
I would probably say 17 out of the 20 pages felt special.
Sure.
That's enough for a 10.
I'm going 9.5. Maybe that'll be seen as cruel or vicious, even though Tom Taylor's clearly one of my favorite writers right now. And Redondo's hardly pulling punches on the R. But 9.5 for me. Hey, that's pretty good. 2 10s and an 8.5, still one of the highest averages we've ever given.
Could you say, just on a lettering touch that I loved before we move on entirely? It's when Dick pulls the dog up and Babs is in the window, and it's just like a heart and then an exclamation point inside the bubble, and it's like there's no physical words being uttered, but it tells you everything of the noise she's making almost. It's really expressive lettering.
I imagine something along the lines of, "Ooh."
It's so much nicer than the scene. Just sometimes they'll write squee or something like that, and it's no, this is much more inventive and gives me the same effect without taking me out of the moment.
Something I've actually just noticed in that page as well that I kind of like is that in the following panel when she holds the dog up in front of her, Nightwing's actually got the pop art thing at the background, almost to suggest that to her for a brief moment he is just part of the background and not relevant to her.
He's completely flat and 2D as well. He's who cares about this guy? There's a little puppy here.
It's a little touch, but there's a reason for it. It's the idea that she's just so obsessed with the dog for a panel that he blends into the background.
Yeah.
Simple but effective. All right, Matt. We rated it already. Never mind. We're moving on.